Hello, everyone. I'll be speaking in English since I'm more comfortable this way, and there's interpretation for whoever wants it, and my colleague Carla explained everything. I would like to welcome everyone to this wonderful training with our wonderful trainer Zena Abdel Khalek. This workshop is going to be around ECOSOC accreditation and introducing everyone to ECOSOC accreditation, what it is, how to achieve it, is it accessible to everyone, is it not accessible to everyone, what are the privileges of it, what are the other things that other organizations or other people working on other topics can do in order to gain access to perhaps a UN or an international platform. We will be exploring most of these angles with our lovely trainer Zena, and we will be taking questions from the audience in the final 30 minutes of this training, so please save your questions until the end. We will hopefully be able to accommodate everyone's questions. So without further ado, Zena, we can start.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm very happy to be with you today. I'm Zaina Abdel Khalek. I'm a Lebanese feminist. I'm a gender expert and trainer, and currently I'm the co-CEO of the RIA Feminist Fund. I think I would like us to start with a round of introductions. Fatima, I really like to know, and as Fatima said, and Carla, it would be great if you could open your video even for a short period of time, just to get to see each other a little bit and get a sense of who's in the room. So I don't know how we're gonna go with the introductions. I can just say the names as they appear on my screen. What do you think, Fatima, or you can do it? I would like people just like to mention their names, their country, organization, and briefly one thing that's been motivating you lately. What keeps you going, you know, with your activism, whether it's in your personal life, in your work, anything that you would like to share with us. That's actually been motivating you. So Fatima, you want to go with the round of introductions, or shall I?
So basically, do you want me to introduce Asfari, and would you like how do you like us to start specifically?
I think you can introduce yourself like Asfari, and then you can nominate someone else, and then we'll do it this way.
Okay. So since we have a lot of people who are participating, it would be great if everyone can type in who they are, what kind of activism they are working on, what is the organization that they are affiliated with, so that we can keep a track of everyone. How does that sound?
I would like it to be as interactive as possible. So it's okay. I think if we can each limit ourselves to brief introductions, I would love that. So can you start, Fatima? Just
yes, sure. So I'm Fatima Amr from the Asfari Institute. The Asfari Institute, basically, we are working on a lot of feminist causes, if you want to call it, a lot of feminist cases in the society. We in partnership with a lot of organizations, and through different forms, through events, through workshops, through publications and research. We don't really have a limit to, so basically the sky is our limit when it comes to feminist causes, and we try to be as inclusive as possible, since this is the Asfari Institute policy as well as AU policy, to be as inclusive as possible. So we are very, very much a safe space for a lot for anyone who wants it. So basically, this is me. Anyone who would like to introduce themselves, please raise their hand, and we'll open the mic for them. And if you're not comfortable speaking on the mic, please just, if you can type in your affiliation, who you are, what kind of causes you are interested in, and if you would like to talk, please raise your hand. Okay, so Rabia.
يعطيكم العافية.
فيك على فيك رابعة، تفضلي.
مسموع صوتي؟
ايه مسموع، تفضلي.
رابعة القادري من مبادرة نحن لبعض اللي بمنطقة البقاع الأوسط بمنطقة المرج. هدف المبادرة هو تمكين النساء اجتماعياً، اقتصادياً ومعرفياً، إضافة لبرنامج الدعم النفسي حتى نكون عم ندعمهم نفسياً. عنا أنشطة من حقق هدفنا من خلالها. أول نشاط هو محو الأمية. نتيجة دراستنا للواقع اللي حولنا لقينا أنه انتشار الأمية كتير كبير بصفوف النساء، فكان نشاط محو الأمية هو أول أنشطتنا. بعدين نحن بال2020 أنشأنا هاي المبادرة، فكنا بزمن الكورونا والوضع الاقتصادي المتدهور، فكان نشاط الأعمال اليدوية اللي هو هدفه ذو شقين: المحافظة على البيئة وتمكين النساء اقتصادياً. المحافظة على البيئة أنه كانت مادة أكياس النايلون هي المادة الأولية لصناعة، نحولها لحقائب، نعلم النساء أنه كيف يحولوا هي الأكياس النايلون، المادة غير المتحللة الملوثة للبيئة، لحقائب ذات تصاميم رائعة وألعاب. فكانت السيدة بتصنع الحقيبة وبتبيعها، بتستفيد من حقها بالوضع الاقتصادي اللي كان وما زال يعني بهذا التدهور.
نعم، هذه المبادرات جدا مهمة، خصوصي على الصعيد.
أنا ما عم أسمع شو عم تحكوا، بس المهم إنه عم تسمعوا شو عم بحكي أنا.
شكرا كثير، الله يعطيكم العافية.
فاطمة قبل ما نكفي بس رابعة, if I may interrupt you, I think when we talk in Arabic, they cannot hear us because of the translation. If you like, you don't have to click mute original audio. If you don't mute original audio, you will hear us when we speak in Arabic. So because we'll be alternating between Arabic and English, so I don't think you have to mute original audio. Just saying.
Okay.
But before we go on, and I think I just want to introduce a very basic feminist principle, like the time justice. So because there's a lot of us here in the room and we want to give everyone an equal space and equal time to share, we'd really appreciate if we keep our interventions short, just to allow everyone to share. So thank you, Rabia, and I think we can have Nasim now. نسيم.
السلام عليكم. نسيم بن حليم من مدينة زليطة، رئيس مجلس إدارة المنظمة الهندسية للتنمية والتطوير. منظمة تشتغل على محو الأمية وبناء السلام وتمكين المرأة. اشتغلنا مع عدة منظمات دولية، منها صندوق المال الأمم المتحدة و DRI يعني اشتغلنا قبل على مشروع تمكين المرأة اللي هو مشروع النساء قادرات. باختصار وشكرا، بارك الله فيك.
شكرا نسيم. Fatima, you want to nominate? I think we have Isra. Isra then Ghaida.
Yes, Isra.
مساء الخير جميعا. أنا اسمي إسراء محادين، أنا المؤسسة والمديرة التنفيذية لمركز قلعة الكرك للاستشارات والتدريب. إحنا معنيين بشكل متخصص بالومن امباورمنت من ناحية التشريعات، لأنه أنا بالأساس محامية، فأنا عم بحاول أقترح تعديل لبعض التشريعات حتى تكون جندر سنسيتيف، بحيث نخدم أكبر قطاع ممكن من السيدات. مش رح أخذ كتير بالتعريف، بس بيهمني طبعاً هذا التريننج، لأنه هلأ أنا شاركت بالCSW 3 مرات. المرة الأولى كانت in person، بس كنت مع مؤسسة أخرى. بالمرتين اللي هو كانوا during COVID، فكان المشاركة civil society online. بس أنا كنت سبيكر بالمرتين، وكان في عندنا تشالنج بتسجيل مركز قلعة الكرك على الموقع حتى نقدر نشارك as a civil society بالCSW. فهذا التريننج كتير مهم حتى نشوف كيف ممكن نتجاوز هاي التحدي. أو يعني thank you. ممكن خلال النقاشات ممكن نحكي أكثر عن الإكسبيرينس
إن شاء الله إن شاء الله. شكرا كثير لك. نور.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
So this is Noor. I'm from Syria. And I'm using my English easier, I think, from Arabic. I don't know. Anyhow, so I'm a founder of She Initiative. We try to help and empower middle-aged women through education and using online platforms like technology and stuff like that. I'm an activist, and we launched the initiative a year ago, and we just finished participating in Wild conference. It was based in Washington, D.C. So I'm really excited to be here and looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Noor. Ghaida?
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I tried to turn my camera on. It's not working. So I'm Ghaida from Taqatu'at, a local feminist collective based in Jordan. We try to spread feminist knowledge and provide safe spaces for women and girls and members of other marginalized communities in the Arab world.
It's nice to meet you, Ghaida. Thank you guys all so much for being here.
We have also some people who introduce themselves, Fatima, on the chat. So
yes. We have Muna, we have Noor, we have Edmund. Noor Awais is a lawyer and a journalist. We have a press writer who her name is Malak Touma. Edmund Fadel from المنظمة الدولية للمضطهدات. And Doris Sava, project manager of Beirut Film Society. And Oday Najib from CRTDA. Okay, we have also two people who are raising their hand. Othman?
السلام عليكم.
عليكم السلام.
هل صوتي واضح؟ مش عارف إن يمكن صوت واضح.
Yes.
أنا عثمان الحشاشي من ليبيا. أنا بالتحديد في الجنوب الليبي من مدينة غدامس تقع على حدود الجزائرية التونسية. رئيس جمعية غدامس للتنمية والأعمال الخيرية. نحن نهتم بالتنمية ومساعدة الفئات المستضعفة أو فئات الصعب الوصول إليها، فاخترنا شريحة النساء المتزوجات من أجانب أو من غير الليبيين، فيعانوا في ليبيا نوع من الظلم أو نوع من التهميش، نوع من عدم نيل الحقوق. فنحاول احنا كجمعيتنا نساعد هذه الفئة من النساء المتزوجات من غير الليبيين عن طريق إثبات هويتهم، أيضا عن طريق منح الجنسية لأبنائهن، أيضا عن طريق منح حقوقهن في كالمواطنة وجميع هذه الحقوق. طبعا هذا الاهتمام الرئيسي حاليا لجمعيتنا، وأنا محظوظ جدا بوجودي معكم وشكرا.
أهلا وسهلا فيك. There's also Muna.
مساء الخير جميعا. شكرا على الدعوة وعلى الحديث. أنا منى فريج من رقة شمال شرق سوريا. كمان المنظمة اللي أشتغل فيها وأنا مديرة هي فيمينيست، تعنى بقضايا النساء ورفع الوعي المجتمعي بقضايا النساء وإشراك النساء بجميع العمليات الوصول لصنع القرار بمستويات عليا. أيضا حاليا عم نستهدف النساء اللي تم وصمة المجتمع إلهم بنساء الدواعش، وصار في عنا نبذ مجتمعي لهؤلاء النساء اللي بغض النظر عن الظروف اللي تعرضوا لها أو إجبارهم على الزواج بسبب الفقر أو سبب العادات والتقاليد. شكرا كثير لكم وسعيدة أني معكم اليوم.
Thank you, Mona. There's also
there's Tima,
yes.
and then we can,
yeah, okay.
Hi everyone, my name is Tima Delian. I'm pro-woman empowerment. I became the first Lebanese woman to summit Mount Everest in 2019, and I've been climbing for 7 years to break barriers, and it's been working out. And throughout my journey, I realized that I'm a big activist and an advocate for women empowerment and women rights, LGBTQ, gender, balanced world, you name it. So I started 2 companies. One, as a mindset coach, I coach women, youth, and children. And 2, I have a company called Feministia, where I sell garments and products that says the word feminist in Arabic. And the mission of this company is to create millions of advocates around the world to speak about feminism, and everybody can share the true meaning of feminism so we can have a socially balanced world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tima, for being with us, and thank you everyone for joining this workshop. So this seems like a very, very, very interactive workshop, which is great. We will try as much as we can to, well, the aim of this workshop is in order to give the people the knowledge that they need in order to know what the ECOSOC accreditation is, what are its benefits, and is it a privilege or not. So we will try as much as we can to make it, to keep making it as interactive from now until the end of the workshop. So Zena, would you like us to get to the heart of it now?
Yeah, sure. So basically, thank you for sharing all these inspiring initiatives. We have a very diverse group, and we're really hoping for a very interactive session, Fatima. So basically, before we start talking about the ECOSOC, why is it important to amplify our voices? Why do we need to be present in international fora? We as women, as activists, as feminists, and here I would like to say, like, feminist doesn't mean that you only have to be a woman. We have some men who are advocating for women's rights and who believe in gender equality. So we are all in the social justice pursuit. So why is it important to have, why are we here today in this space, in this feminist safe space where we get to share our concerns, our perspectives, for us to be able like to amplify our voices, for us to know how to attain, to reach out to those international fora. So you can share your ideas on the chat, you can open the mic, but for each one of you, I mean, what's your motive behind being in this session? Why do you think you need this accreditation? What will it add, what will it add to you, you know, to your organization? So, I mean, we can share like words in the chat, or you can just open the mic and say it quickly. So who wanna start? We're gonna keep waiting till someone starts, so. And there are no right or wrong answers, you know? So we're just sharing together.
You want us to speak loudly or to just write it in the chat?
Whatever you want.
You can speak, definitely, whatever you want.
Okay, I can start at this stage. This session is important, as I mentioned at the beginning, is to put our organization on the map of the UN activities and UN conferences, to raise the voices and to raise the issues, especially that Castle based as a code as a CBO. So it's important to raise the voice of CBOs loudly, because I think the CBOs is close to the grassroots, close to the needs for the society. So many of our topics that we worked on is new and no one touched it before. So that's why I think it's important to put our name on these activities and to participate actively in the meetings and conferences. Thank you.
Thank you, Isra. So do we all agree that we as CSOs and CBOs working at the grassroots level, we're the best ones who are aware of the needs of our constituencies, of the communities at the grassroots level, and we should be amplifying those voices. And what about our region? Are we a well-represented region? What about our regimes? What do you think? I'm not gonna do all, this is a feminist training. So basically it's like we're co-creating knowledge. It's not a lecture. So we're basically gonna share our perspectives, our opinions, and we're gonna co-create the knowledge. So Ghaida.
Hi again. I think that being involved in international fora, especially as women and girls from the global south, is very important, especially when we are committed to decolonizing aid work and development. So it's important that our voices are heard as women from the global south. It's representation for us, for the next generations, and to tailor aid and development to better suit us.
Yeah, to set our own agendas, right? Narrate our own narrative and set our own feminist agendas, not to have
Absolutely.
it top down. Yes,
absolutely.
Thank you. Mona?
شكرا. بالنسبة لنا الحضور هذا التدريب نعم يساعد بوضع سياسات، بوضع كيف فينا نوصل صوت النساء أو صوت المجتمع اللي نحن منه. نحن ما بنمثل أكيد كل النساء أو كل المجتمع، لكن نمثل شريحة معينة اللي هي مؤمنة بأنه نحن قادرات على توصيل صوتهم وتوصيل المعاناة والمشاكل اللي هن عم يعانوا منها، لكن عدم قدرتهم على إيصال هذا الصوت. فنحن الصوت اللي ممكن يكون بينهم وبين صانعي أو صانعات القرار. مجتمعاتنا كثير عانت من تمييز جندري، لذلك نحن كنسويات نسعى لإلغاء هذا التمييز ووصول النساء وإعطائهم الحقوق. نحن ما رح نعطي الحق لأنه ما بيعطى ولا بيؤخذ، لكن يؤخذ. فنحاول إنه نساعد النساء على إنه هن ياخذوا حقوقهم بالطريقة اللي هم يكونوا ممكنات فيها وقادرات على الوصول وأخذ الحقوق.
صح، تمكين النساء وإعلاء الصوت. We have Tima. I'm not sure whether this is an old hand. Tima?
Yeah, Tima. So at a core level, I think when it comes to the region, the first thing that we need to be working on is basically the definition of feminism and what a feminist is. And where did the feminism movement start? Till date, you still see people talking and trying to have an argument with not enough backed up data. So one of the reasons we're here to see how we can get backed up data, accredited data that you can use when you're trying to create that change. And feminism is still misunderstood till today. Everybody defines it in a specific way and the different types of feminism. But if we look at it at the bigger picture, it's about lifting the whole society as a whole. So lifting women is lifting society, and it's fighting for everybody's right. I think through this course or workshop, it will be ideal to understand where is feminism heading, and if everybody understands we're at the fourth wave, and how can we better have those debates in a gentle way, let's say.
Okay, I think this is another topic that Fatima may put as a recommendation for a future session. where are we heading now as feminists? But I just want to say, like, feminism is definitely a social movement that seeks to attain social justice. And I don't think there are different, I mean, as you said, there are different waves, there are different approaches to feminism, but for me, I don't think there's a set of criteria that should be adopted. There's a set of values and principles, feminist values and principles that we should adhere to, but really feminism responds to the needs. It's very contextualized, so it responds to the needs of the people that we're talking about. So basically, it's not a checklist. There are the feminist values that everyone agrees on, the feminist principles, but for feminism, it has to be, as I said, it has to come up from the people that we are working with. So it's co-created with the constituencies, with the communities that we're working with, and not like, I don't think that it's rigid enough. Like, it's not, as I said, it's not a checklist. But on this issue, and before we take the other interventions, and because we have a prominent feminist as a guest speaker today, and she just arrived and she is giving us some time to be with us. So before she has to leave, we would like to ask Muzen. So Muzen Hassan is a prominent Egyptian feminist, and she just came back from her participation in the Human Rights Council. And we would like to hear her intervention on feminism and her institution, Nazra for Feminist Studies, experience in attaining the ECOSOC.
طيب.
Are you with us?
Yes. مساء الفل. أنا ممكن أتكلم عربي صح؟
Yes.
شكرا يا زينة، وشكرا لفاطمة، وشكرا ليكوا كلكوا. هي يعني أنا أظن الموضوع ده من أحلى المواضيع يعني اللي ممكن نتكلم فيها. كمان أنا بسمعكوا الناس هي شايفة إحنا ليه بنروح الإيكوسوك أو بنروح للسيستم ده، التصور حوالين تعريف النسوية وكل الحاجات دي. أظن ارتباط الحركة دي بتعدداتها وتقاطعاتها الكبيرة يعني جوه المجتمعات المختلفة، وتصور النسوية كجزء من حركة وحراك عالمي له أولوياته وله تصوراته وله المينيمم والماكسيمم بتاعه. بس كمان أظن الاندماج مع الآليات الدولية أو الإقليمية بأقل ما هي جزء من إدراك حركتنا النسوية كحركة سياسية. في الأول وفي الآخر أظن وجود مؤسساتنا جوه الأنظمة الدولية والإقليمية هو جزء من تصورنا النسوي حوالين وجودنا كمجموعات في الأول وفي الآخر، مش بس مجموعات خيرية أو مجموعات بتقوم بعمل تنموي بس، لا، إحنا أصواتنا مرتبطة بأصوات سياسية وتغييرات سياسات وتصورات مش موجودة واحنا محتاجين نحطها على الأجندة. ده كان تصورنا في نظرة أما قدمنا على الإيكوسوك أو الصفة الاستشارية في 2013. كان في وقت كده كانت مصر بتتغير فيه، وكنا كمكان شايفين بأشكال كبيرة إن إحنا محتاجين نطلع هذا الصوت المختلف عن اللي بيحصل في مصر، مش بس على مستوى سياسي، بس كمان على مستوى نسوي. فاحنا مثلا كنا بنشتغل على قضايا المدافعات عن حقوق الإنسان، مش بس بتوثيق الانتهاكات، ولكن أيضا بالناراتيف بحياتنا، وإزاي تبقى أشكال تصوراتنا عما يحدث في أوطاننا يعني هو جزء من تواجدنا وجزء من خطابنا السياسي. ده كان جزء من اهتمامنا الشديد في إن احنا نقدم على الإيكوسوك، لأنه في الأول وفي الآخر، وطبعا زينة أشطر مني وهتتكلم أحسن مني في كل الحاجات دي، الموضوع هي بروسيس معقدة جدا، تكنيكال جدا. ساعات الناس تقولك وبروح يعني المفروض بنسمع كلام وخلاص وكده، بس الحقيقة إن هو مش كده. الحقيقة إن هو مع عمق البروسيس والتفاصيل التقنية فيها هي كمان رسالة مننا كحركة للعالم إن إحنا ممكن نبقى professional feminist و professional activist، لأن جزء من التصور أظن الخاطئ كتير، وكانت زينة كانت بتتكلم عن ده، مش بس عن الاكتيفيست او الفيمينست في العالم، بس كمان عن الناس في منطقتنا، ان احنا ناس مش بروفيشنال، ان احنا ناس جعجعة، ان احنا ناس الاكتيفيست واللوكال اكتيفيست دول ما يعرفوش يكتبوا انترفنشن، ما يعرفوش يعملوا اورال ستيتمنت، ما يعرفوش يدخلوا negotiations مع دول ناس كأن يعني بشكل في يعني فوقية، وكتير منه أداء كمان كولونيالي بحت، يعني إنه الناس دي بتوع الشارع، إحنا بتوع السياسة والتظبيط. وده بيبقى أكتر على الستات وبيبقى أكتر على الفيمينست، فبنلاقي كل التقاطعات دي بتحطنا في حتة كأنه المكان ده مش بتاعنا. وفي الأول وفي الآخر تصور الحركة النسوية كحركة سياسية هو إن كل الأماكن بتاعتنا. فازاي نوصل لده في سيستم معقد جدا؟ اليو ان سيستم هو سيستم معقد جدا، هو معمول من دول لدول في وقت تاريخي ما، بعده الجندري هو بعد ضعيف جدا، بعده النسوي اضعف واضعف، وزي اي مكان تقليدي يعني طلع بعد الحرب العالمية الثانية من السكند ويف، وتصور السكند ويف حب يعمل لنا يونيفام شوية علشان ايه نقعد نتكلم فيها، وبعد كده عملها يو ان وومن، وعلى اساس ايه انه في مكان ده. حتى يا جماعة الناس بتجتمع في CSW في نيويورك، وبتجتمع في بقية حقوق كل تفاصيل حقوق الانسان في جنيفا، يعني تخيلوا انه شايف ناس مختلفة ازاي. ده كان جزء برضو من اهتمامنا في نظر ان احنا ناخد الايكوسوك عشان كمان ندخل في التفاصيل مش بس اللي خاصة بالسيداو أو اللي هي قضية قضاء على أشكال التمييز ضد المرأة، يعني ووجودنا في الشادو ريبورت، لا نبقى موجودات في الهيومن رايتس كونسل أو مجلس حقوق الإنسان في دورته العادية، في الاستعراض الدوري الشامل، في الحديث مع السبيشال رابراتورز، من كل الحاجات دي. ده جزء على فكرة بيطورنا احنا في التجربة، ازاي نبقى ادفوكيتس، وازاي احنا نتكلم، وازاي ان احنا نقدر نصيغ رسائلنا وكلامنا الكتير وألمنا وغضبنا في دقيقتين، عشان احنا اخرنا هنتكلم دقيقتين، لان ده مكان الدول. بيعلمنا ازاي نعمل لوبي، بيعلمنا ازاي نعمل تكتيكات، بيعلمنا ازاي نعرف نقول رسائلنا ونختار أعدائنا ونختار حلفائنا. بيعلمنا كمان نشوف العالم بأشكاله المختلفة، يعني دايما يقول إنه أغلب الحاجات دي مرتبطة مش بالجلسة نفسها، مرتبطة باللوبينج بره الجلسات وكده. فمثلا دخول الأماكن دي، عشان يبقى عندكم بادج تدخلوا الأماكن دي لازم تبقوا تبع مؤسسة عندها إيكوسوك، عشان نقدم أي حاجات من التقارير دي لازم يبقى عندنا إيكوسوك. فهو الإيكوسوك مهم في كده. إحنا خدنا هذه التجربة من مصر يعني بشكل كمان كانت أياميها يعني الحكومة المصرية، وكانت يعني حكومات كتير شايفة إن ده معقد جدا جدا بالنسبة لنا، يعني في العادي يا جماعه الناس بتشوفنا، يعني انا اسفه بس انا مش بوليتيكالي كوركت، يعني شويه جرابيع، فكمان عايزين نتكلم في اليو ان ده يعني ايه تقييم نفسكم ايه. بس احنا يعني كنا من ناحيه محظوظات، ومن ناحيه تانية احنا اشتغلنا كتير على ان احنا من اول جلسه، وده ما كانش شيء سهل يعني. وفي العادي المؤسسات النسوية بيقف قدامها البلوك الإسلامي في الأغلب، أغلب المؤسسات من مناطقنا بيقف قدامها حكوماتها والحكومات صاحباتها كلهم يعني. بس يعني كنا شوية محظوظات في اللوبي، محظوظات في الدعم، ومحظوظات إن إحنا تعلمنا ده يعني بأشكال مختلفة يعني. احنا الايكوسوك بيتاخد في نيويورك مش بيتاخد في جنيف، وخدناها يعني من اول مره. بس هي كمان فتحت لنا مساحات كتير للوجود والتواجد بخطابنا، ومش بس لينا يعني. احنا مثلا كمكان بنعمل مثلا منتورشيب ومرافقه لمجموعات نسويه تانية ان هي تشتغل على الموضوع ده، وبنديهم الايكوسوك بتاعنا. لانه مثلا كان في مجموعات من السودان كانت عايزه تقدم على الUPR اللي فات مثلا وهي معهاش الايكوسوك، فازاي كمان انه ده تسبب مثلا لوجود وجهه نظر مختلفه للسودان ما بعد الثوره في قضايا مثلا مرتبطه بالنسويات والإشكاليات مثلا النساء ذوات الإعاقة. في مصر مثلا مصر كانت بتتراجع في السيداو لأول مرة من أكتر من 10 سنين، يعني اتراجعت السنة اللي فاتت، واحنا مثلا عملنا منتورشيب لمجموعتين من مصر، وكان لأول مرة يعني طول ال10 سنين اللي فاتوا يبقى هم أجدد، يبقوا هم أصغر مجموعتين. ده كمان جزء فيه تمكين للجيل الأصغر أو الفريش اللي داخل في الحركة، وكمان يخلي العالم يشوف إن في ناس تانية، لأنه في ناس بتتعامل إن هو المكان ده بتاعها برضو. يعني زي ما الدول بتعمل كده، في ناس بتتعامل المكان ده بتاعها ان هي كانت بتجري في الUN قبل ما احنا ما نتولد وكده، وهو intimidating في الاول ويخض ويحسسنا كده، خصوصا لو انتوا شوارعجيه يعني زيي. بس لو انتوا عندكم يعني الاليجنس والليدرشيب سكيلز زي زينة هترتاحوا. بس هو intimidating جدا يعني في الاول، بس هو بعد كده اظن هو جزء مهم كمان يعني بالنسبة لنا في نظرة وفي قضايا مصر وقضايا المنطقة. كان مفيد، ما كانش مضر. وعلمنا كمان سكيلز، ورانا أشكال من العالم وأشكال نضالات من العالم يعني مختلفة. فمعرفش قلت كلام منطقي ولا لا، بس يعني شكرا.
أكيد الكلام منطقي. and it makes perfect sense يعني especially إنه نحن in our region we are very underrepresented يعني in whether in our countries أو on an international scale, by extension because of our countries' regimes. We're not really countries that represent a vulnerable group, especially women. We are a very patriarchal society in that sense. So it makes perfect sense that the ECOSOC accreditation is something that is very essential for us to raise our voices to an international platform. However, we do also raise the question of how attainable is it to organizations? How easy is it to get by? So I would like to hear both of your inputs, Sena and Muzin, on that sense.
Muzin, if you want to share, like, because I know you have time restrictions, so if you want to share, I know that your experience, you got it from the first time, but this isn't usually the case, particularly for our NGOs, the NGOs from the MENA region. But do you want to like elaborate on this before we explain further?
يعني هي generally مش تجربة سعيدة خالص يعني للمؤسسات من مناطقنا، لأنه في الأغلب دولنا بتقف ضدنا في ده، لأنه كمان ده جزء من كونتكست كبير جوه منطقتنا مرتبط بأنه دولنا شايفة إن إحنا هم اللي يتكلموا، أو حكوماتنا يعني هم اللي بيتكلموا مع الأجانب، إحنا لأ. وده جزء من إن المنطقة دي، وفي الأغلب ده موجود في دول الجنوب يعني عموما، من ده في المؤسسات المستقلة، لأنه ساعات تلاقوا الدول بتحب يبقى موجود ناس اللي بنسميهم NGOs، اللي هم Governmental Non-Governmental Organizations. فهم مشهرات أو مشهورين كمؤسسات غير حكومية، بس هم خطابهم يعني ممكن يبقى أعلى من الدولة. يعني مثلا تلاقيهم بيدافعوا عن انتهاكات حقوق الإنسان مثلا، أو انتهاكات المرأة أكتر من ده. تلاقي الدول مثلا تقول إحنا آسفين، دول يقولوا لهم أبدا إياكم تبقوا آسفين وكده. فده مثلا جزء من إنه في أغلبها حكوماتنا والميشنز بتاعتنا في المنطقة بيحبوا المؤسسات دي، ما بيحبوش المؤسسات اللي زينا يعني. فهي يعني طبعا بقول ان احنا محظوظات، عشان بس مش عايزه يعني اقول للناس ان تجربتنا يعني كانت وحشه عشان الناس تاخد تجاربها، بس هو في العادي احنا بيتحط علينا ضغوط شديده. احنا اتحط علينا ضغوط شديده جدا 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 من اول ما في مصر لحد ما كنا في نيويورك، ان احنا ما ناخدهاش. احنا مثلا لانه مؤسستنا دخلت في اشكاليات، الناس حاولوا يعني ان هي توقع الاكريديتيشن بتاعنا مثلا، لانه ده يعني مثلا مره الجزائر حاولت توقع الاكريديتيشن بتاع امنستي انترناشونال مثلا. في مؤسسه هي بتشتغل على قضايا المنطقه يعني اسمها كرامه، مش المجموعه النسويه، كرامه وقعوا الاكريديتيشن بتاعها يعني بيز على ان هم يعني شافوا انه الواحد من مؤسسينها كان من اصل مسلم وكان متهم بقضايا ارهاب مثلا. فكل الحاجات دي بتحطنا في مشاكل من الأول، لأنه الأكريديتيشن في شكل من أشكال التقدير طبعا. فهو الموضوع مش سهل في الأغلب، الناس مش بتاخدها من أول مرة. في الأغلب هو كمان بيبر وورك مرعب، فساعات إحنا بنخسرها لأن إحنا ما عندناش التكنيكاليتيز بتاعت نكتب إيه وعدد الكلمات وإيه الأفيد وإيه الأكتر وكده. فده يعني مش بنرهق الأصفري ولا أي حاجة، ده مستحيل يتقال في ساعة أو ساعة ونص أو كده. ده تريننج تكنيكال جدا 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 في ده، إن إحنا بنقدر نكتب إيه وما نكتبش إيه في عدد الكلمات اللي في الآخر الناس بيجي لها ملايين. فإحنا لازم نبقى عارفين إنه الحاجات مش كده. لكن في الأول وفي الآخر عملية سياسية، خصوصا للمؤسسات اللي هي مستقلة، وفي الأغلب طبعا مؤسسات المرأة، يعني خصوصا من منطقتنا. في الأغلب الناس بتشوف مؤسسات المرأة من منطقتنا لازم تبقى حبيبة الدولة. يعني في المؤسسات المرتبطة بالجندر أو الفيمينيزم اللي هي ليها شكل استقلالي، أو مثلا queer organizations أو مؤسسات كده بالشكل ده، مش بتبقى مقبولة، لأنه كمان هو الموضوع بالعدد. فإحنا عندنا بلوكات كتيرة تفوت ضدنا. إحنا عندنا الأغلب البلوكات الدول المطلق عليها البلوك الإسلامي في الأغلب، اللي هو طبعا بيبقى مسيطر عليه من الحكومة المصرية. يعني الحكومة المصرية شاطرة جدا، الدبلوماسية المصرية شاطرة جدا في ده. فده بلوك كبير، فلو كلهم قالوا عليك لا، أو ما عندكش نفس العدد يوازن من مكان تاني، هتقع عادي يعني. حتى لو فانت محتاج، لو البلوك الاسلامي كله هيفوت ضدكم، والبلوك الافريقي اغلبه مثلا في المنطقه بتاعتنا يعني بيحبوا يستقوا مع بعض، وفي الاغلب تبقى روسيا والصين معاهم، فانتم محتاجين تقريبا كل اللايت مايندد، يعني كل الاوروبيين والامريكان ونص دول امريكا اللاتينيه عشان توازنوا. فالموضوع معقد، مش سهل يعني. انا بس وهو الفكره انه ساعات ناس تقول لكم روحوا وارجعوا تاني. سيستم اليو ان هو سيستم بيروقراطي اصلا، دي اكبر مؤسسه بيروقراطيه في التاريخ يعني. فابلودنج الحاجات في 600 ساعه، فهو it is a hard technical process. بس انا بس كنت حابه اقول اللي هو البعد السياسي بتاعه، وحمس الناس تاخد الايكوسوك، فمش هحكي عن حاجات وحشه.
Thank you, Mozen. You know, I think, as you were saying, like the ECOSOC is really a very diligent process, and we're going to share the questions with the participants, and we're going to try to cover really what's the best way to link your work to, for instance, you have to be aware of the UN resolutions, of the CEDAW, of the SDGs, and try to show how your work fits within the UN's work, and this will increase your chances of attaining the ECOSOC. We're not going to dwell a lot about the political component. Mozen has already mentioned this, but I think this is something that we cannot actually really we cannot control. We can advocate, we can do our part, we can like fulfill all the requirements, try to lobby with the delegations, with the diplomats, but for the political component, I think Mozen, we just we cannot like directly influence this, right? We do our part and we advocate, and then we just don't want to make you feel like it's difficult, but it's attainable. As Nazra was able to attain it, you should try, right?
يا ما هي دي كانت فكرتي، انه هو بروسيس واحنا مش يعني هو محتاجين احنا نقراه بانه هو جزء من الباور داينامكس في العالم. ده مكان لدول، فوجود السيفل سوسايتي هي مساحة قليلة جدا، جزء منها موضوع الايكوسوك اللي اتعمل، وما كانش ده في بداية السيستم، اتعمل عشان يدي فويسز للسيفل سوسايتي. فالسيفل سوسايتي الاندبندنت بيبقى في مرحلة أقل، السيفل سوسايتي اللي جاي من جندر بارت بيبقى أقل، اللي جاي من اندبندنت جندر، زي كل حاجة كده في الفيمينيزم في تحليل القوى. فهو في الآخر احنا ممكن نعمل كل حاجة ويعني وما ناخدهاش تترفض، بس هي كمان لو اترفض ناس من حقها تقدم تاني. فهي يعني مش one life thing. فهو الناس ممكن تترفض تقدم تاني، ناس كتير اترفضت وقدمت تاني، ناس كتير جالها أسئلة، لأنه ساعات الدول الجميلة بتاعتنا يعني بتلعب على موضوع miss the deadline، يعني إن احنا إيه يعني احنا كنا مثلا في الهيومن رايتس كونسل بنشتغل على ريزولوشن للانتي ديسكريمينيشن يعني ليد باي مكسيكو، علشان مكسيكو هي الدولة الوحيدة اللي من الجنوب اللي عندها feminist foreign policy مع السويد. فلانه في تقرير طالع من الوركينج جروب فور انتي ديسكريميشن، يعني موضوع تاني. ففي 3 دول كونسرفاتيف جدا عايزين يوقعوا الريزولوشن، فهم مش عارفين يوقعوا الريزولوشن قوي، لانه موضوع الكلام برضو في حاجات مرتبطه بحقوق البنات وكده، في حاجات عاديه مش عارفين يرفضوه. فمثلا في ديليجيشن يعني من دوله من دولنا يعني قررت تضحك على الناس في موضوع الديدلاين، وخلتهم يمسوا اول ديدلاين في تعديل يدوا الكومنتس بتاعتهم مثلا. فده بيحصل عادي يا جماعه، ممكن مثلا نقول ان احنا عيال، بس احنا فعلا كنا قاعدين واكتشفنا انه هؤلاء الناس ضيعوا علينا الديدلاين، ضيعوا علينا از حكومه، يعني على الحكومات مش علينا كNGOs مثلا وكده يعني. فهو الموضوع انه خلاص ضاع الديدلاين، فانت معاكي المكسيك، فمعاكي كل امريكا اللاتينيه، ومعاكي السويد، ومعاكي ما اعرفش ايه وكده، وفي وقت في اوكرانيا وفي افغانستان، وفي كل ده بتخلي ان ناس كتير هتحس على دمها مثلا يعني، وتطلع ريزولوشن. فالدوله دي، وهي دوله من منطقتنا يعني، ضيعت الديدلاين على الناس. فيعني مندوب الميشن السويدي تقريبا كان هيعيط، وجالي قال لي هو انتوا ايه؟ انتوا بتعملوا كده ليه؟ قلت له معلش احنا شاطرين، نعمل لكم ايه، يلا هارد لك. فهو ده اللي قصدي عليه، ان هي محاولة الوقت، لانه البوليتكس هو كده، بتيجي ما تجيش اي حاجة فاين يعني. بس انا شاكرة جدا، ويا ريت اكون قلت حاجة مفيدة، وجود لك، وانا مضطرة امشي.
Thank you. Muzan.
Thank you, Muzan. It was a pleasure having you with us.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Lena, so after we heard Muzan, I actually have like a very the first question that popped into my mind was to ask you, is the ECOSOC accreditation the only way that CSOs and NGOs that are on the ground are able to access an international platform? Is it like the only path for us to raise our voices, or for us to be part of like the UN body in any way possible, or are there other ways? And if there is, what makes the ECOSOC so special? What are the privileges of it that we attain for it and not for other ways of accessing the international platform?
Okay, so there's, for instance, the NGO CSW, which is open to all NGOs, whether accredited or not, which is usually run in parallel to the CSW events. But why do we seek ECOSOC? Because we want to be present during the deliberations, during the discussions. We want to influence the policies from within. So this can only be attained through having the ECOSOC. To be present during the events and the sessions of the CSW, you have to be ECOSOC accredited. You can participate in, as I said, which is run in parallel, the NGO CSW. But for you to be able to directly try to influence, the policies while being discussed, or try to oppose what the government representatives are presenting. Also with the ECOSOC, you can provide the shadow reports, you can be present during, you can provide oral statements, written statements, opposing in many times what the governments claim to have achieved. So it's really important for our organizations to seek the attainment of the ECOSOC. It's not the only way to amplify our voices. We as civil society are always very vibrant and very vigilant and trying to actually always be present. And I think that the UN, as Muzan was saying, the ECOSOC and the participation of the NGOs within the or inside the UN system it wasn't initially there in the UN policies. It was amended to allow for the participation of the civil society through the ECOSOC accreditation. So basically, there's a huge move now within the UN system to give more space to the participation of the civil society. And this was reflected, for instance, in the Generation Equality Forum, which I think many of you heard about it. Like 25 years after Beijing, it was supposed to be in person with more than 4,000 people gathering for the event. Unfortunately, there was the pandemic and it was online, but it was an opportunity where the UN has asserted the role of the civil society. So in the Generation Equality Forum, it was said that there's the UN, there's the civil society, and there's the private sector. So we're actually, everyone is realizing the role of and the importance of the civil society. So there is always a way for us to participate, but to be more credible, to be accredited, it will give us this credibility that what we're saying is based on facts. Because and I think it's really a good time to jump to the requirements of the ECOSOC here. What will allow us to attain the ECOSOC, and why is it more or less? I wouldn't say like it's not difficult in the sense of impossible. It's difficult in the sense of making us perfect, really try to perfect our vision, our objectives, how we state our activities, how we phrase them, because all of this has to be presented in our application to the ECOSOC. So I'm gonna, I think I can share screen, right, Fatima?
Yes, please. Yes, you can.
You can see my screen now.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So I'm not, there are some points that we have already discussed, and I think if we can go over them quickly. I just want to provide like a quick brief of the history of the ECOSOC. So it was designed to be the UN's main venue for the discussion of international, this is the ECOSOC, you know, the economic, for social and for economic and social council. So basically it was meant to be the UN's main venue for the discussion of international economic and social issues. It's the largest and most complex subsidiary body of the UN. It was established in 1945 and it was amended between 1965 and 1974. It has 6 main organs: the General Assembly, the Security Council, the Economic and Social Council, the Trusteeship Council, the Secretariat, and the International Court of Justice. And I think we mostly are, usually we interact with the Economic and Social Council, the Security Council, because we're in a region with constant conflict. So there are always resolutions that are pertaining to our own context, and the General Assembly, where the member states convene and take the decisions. So the Council coordinates the economic and social work of the UN and the UN family of organizations. It's the central platform for fostering debate, innovative thinking, forging consensus on ways forward, and coordinating achieve internationally agreed goals. So it's really, the ECOSOC is, as I said, the largest body of the UN. It's actually is the body that covers the issues that we as civil society works on. It conducts studies, it formulates resolutions, recommendations, and is responsible for improving the standards of living, better employment, economic and social progress, and definitely abiding by the respect for human rights and fundamental freedom. So I'm not going to dwell a lot on this. The Council is governed by 54 member states, which are elected by the General Assembly. And these states are actually from the various geographic regions, global geographic regions. And I would like this is something that's not only pertaining to ECOSOC, but the whole UN body. In a recent study that we have conducted, women from the Middle East are the least represented in the most senior positions at the UN. So being women, gender intersects with geography here to further marginalize women from our region. So even within the UN system, we are the least represented among other groups. So the ECOSOC meets once per year for 4 weeks. And there's the committee on the NGOs. So this is the committee that Muslim was talking about, where we as civil society organizations, as NGOs, present our applications. This committee meets twice a year, but now I'm going to tell you that for next year, the deadline for applying to the ECOSOC was June 1st. So we missed the deadline for this year, but actually it takes some time to prepare the application. So it would be a good time to start preparing for the next year. Usually, you know, the committee receives the applications. There's an officer who goes over the application, checks whether the applications are eligible before referring them to the committee. So once the application reaches the committee, then you have better chances. The committee will review the application, will usually have some questions, will send the questions to the CSO one or several times, and then following the receiving, once the committee receives the full questions, you may be eligible to apply for this year, the year that you're applying to, or it may be withheld till the next year. So it could be a time-consuming process, but once you have the application, and now, I mean, I'm gonna share all the in the online application, and we can discuss together. There are 3 consultative status for NGOs with the ECOSOC Council. So there's the general consultative status, which is only for big I NGOs, which isn't the case with all of us here. And actually, there's limited number of INGOs with this general consultative status. It's like around 170, 180. The bulk are those with a specific status, which are NGOs that are working on thematic areas pertinent to the work of the ECOSOC. So it could be women's rights, it could be disabled rights, anything that falls under the economic and social thematic areas. And there's the roster status. It's very specific NGOs, which also doesn't fall, it's not of interest to us. So who is eligible to apply for the specific consultative status with ECOSOC? The work of the NGO must be relevant to the work of the ECOSOC. So as we were saying, you should be working on a social issue, economic empowerment, a human rights issue, and there should be clear decision-making process within the NGO. And this is required actually to be submitted as well within your application. So there should be democratic decision-making mechanism.
Zaina, is it okay if I ask a question about what you just said?
Yes.
Since you just mentioned that it should be working on like a human rights issue, we do know that currently there are a lot of feminist movements that are focusing on more social topics, if you like, more like gender topics, topics that are related to queer sexuality, to sexual and reproductive health and rights. How tolerant and how sensitive is like the ECOSOC application to these topics? Are these topics all welcomed and tolerated and accepted, or are there some headlines that the UN still hasn't been too tolerant with, or has been a little bit sensitive towards?
Okay. So basically, the UN, and since, I mean, prior to the Generation Equality Forum and during the Generation Equality Forum, there was an explicit commitment to intersectional feminism. So, to queer groups, to, disability, refugees, any woman that face intersectional forms of discrimination. So basically, it's not the UN that's not tolerant with these issues. It's, as Muslim was saying, more like our regimes that are not tolerant, and they will try to pull some strings sometimes to actually prohibit an NGO from attaining the ECOSOC. But I also want to highlight that usually the council goes with the NGO recommendations. It's very rare that the council votes against the NGO recommendation. So if the NGOs committee that you were saying about that you apply to receives the application, reviews the application, and finds that the work is done, we definitely have to highlight what we're doing. How is it responsive to the communities? How is it in line with the UN's resolutions? It's very rare that the council will vote against it. So if we pass this screening phase, we're mostly gonna get the ECOSOC.
That sounds great. Actually, it was a question that a lot of intersectional feminists would ask, since there's always like a hole somewhere, a gap somewhere, or a loophole that we know a lot of the world of politics. It likes to go around the loophole. It likes as much as it can to like find like a small gap in order not to give the ECOSOC accreditation. And in our MENA region, some topics are more sensitive and more demonized than others. So it is really nice to hear that the ECOSOC accreditation is like attainable for basically intersectional feminism, which is something that we really like to work on in the MENA region.
Yeah, and actually, I think most of us are committed to it. Like now we say we're intersectional feminists. We all commit to this. Yeah. Okay. So basically, we were So we need to have a headquarter and an executive officer. We need to have a structure. The point is that the organization needs to have a structure, bylaws, internal bylaws. It has a governance body. And it has to be in existence for 2 years before we apply. And it's, as I said, a representative structure. So most of the organizations, for instance, that are with us today, they've been mentioning that they've been present for quite some time. So during this time, and you have to be registered in your own country. So to be registered in the country, you need to have these requirements anyway. The ECOSOC, like the bylaws mention that if your country doesn't require you being incorporated in this country, being registered in this country, you have to present a proof that you exist. But I believe in all of the MENA countries, there's a requirement for registration for NGOs. So, and here, like I've put some points, and I can share the presentation with Fatima, and she can share with everyone. Like you have to address, and you have to dwell on the internal policies and regulations, the activities, the past and the present activities. What's your plan of action? If you have a strategic plan, what's your strategic plan? Any information that may help solidify your application. Like you have a clear vision, mission, you have an action plan that you're committed to. So so as of August 2021, there's a total of 559 organizations in consultative status with the ECOSOC. So definitely, this is from all over the world. So the committee receives hundreds and hundreds of applications. We have to make our applications stand out. But also, I wanna like point out that since the MENA region is a context of conflict, of women in the MENA region like suffer the most discriminatory laws, this is more or less is kind of a leverage for us, because those NGOs working on such sensitive issues and really trying to be responsive to such needs would actually be valued by the committee. This is a context that threatens women and human rights defenders, that threatens those who seek social justice. So really reflecting on the context that we work with and how we're responsive to this context is also an added value for our application. I'm gonna, so there are very technical steps, but that are very clearly stated on the website on how actually to create a profile for your organization and how to start your online application. But before I start sharing with you the questions that are in the application, I wanna, Fatima, just open the space for questions.
Yes,
And then
I believe in the chat, a lot of people would be willing to put questions. So please, anyone, if you have any questions, please ask for it in the chat. And if you would like to ask your question live, raise your hand so we can unmute you, and you can ask what you want to ask. And in the meantime, Zana, can I ask a question too?
yeah.
I want to ask about the levels of consultation. Like we know that when an NGO is granted the ECOSOC accreditation, it's granted the accreditation in accordance to a certain level of consultation, right? So is that level of consultation, are they classified in a hierarchical structure? Like certain levels are more able to lobby or to raise their voices more or raise their demands more than other levels of consultation?
There's the general consultative status, which we said like it's very limited to the NGOs. This is the higher level, but all the other NGOs fall under the specific consultative status, and which enables them to participate in all the events. And so this is where we apply. But I want to say, like, also, it's not just about attaining the ECOSOC, because once you attain it, you have to report every 4 years on your work and how did you contribute to this to the ECOSOC mandate, whether you participated in UN events, how was your own work reflecting the UN's, let's say, SDGs and resolutions. So it's an ongoing process. It's not like we attain the ECOSOC and that's it. This is something that we have to keep reporting on. We have to present each time, like, our added value to the ECOSOC, more or less. How are we contributing to this council? Yes. And I think there are 2 questions, Fatima, in the chat.
Yes, in the chat, there's Isra, she's asking, هل هناك مدة زمنية محددة لقبول الطلب؟ يعني تقدمنا بطلب من شهر ديسمبر وإلى الآن الطلب ما زال قيد المراجعة.
I think they're gonna get back to you, like they meet twice, but you're only not notified once. So usually that's in, I think it says in March.
Fair enough. Muna is asking, هل هناك شروط للقبول? I don't know if by شروط she means conditions or as you said, after they get accepted, they're supposed to submit reports or something. So this is the question of Mona.
I think Mona is asking about the requirements. Yes, there are requirements. Like, yeah, you have to be registered in your own country, been existing for more than 2 years. You have your bylaws. You have reports, activity reports. You have your organizational structure, governance structure. So you have to have an established organization before you can apply. Initiatives, for instance, if they're not registered, they cannot apply. It has to be a registered organization.
So I think that relates to Rabi'a's question. هل يجب أن تكون المبادرة مسجلة حتى تحصل على الاعتماد? So yes, I think it should be. Zena, I do have a question regarding that. In our MENA region, a lot of organizations are not registered due to the nature of our regime. So it's very hard for them to attain the registration, since there is like a conflict between the idea of the NGO and the things that they're advocating for and the regime itself. So what should be done in that case?
You know, the UN system, as most was saying, is a very bureaucratic body, and its first its first work is with governments. You know, so it consists of member states, of governments. So basically, it doesn't really take into consideration the informal groups or those that are not registered. And there's very little sensitivity pertaining to what you're exactly saying, Fatima, that in a context like the MENA region, it's sometimes threatening to be registered. And even if you apply, you may not get it. You'll be harassed by the system, by the regime. I mean, but this is the case with the UN. At the end of the day, as I said, it consists of member states. So,
yeah. That's totally understandable. And this brings me up to a follow-up question that I have regarding having a partnership with an organization that has an ECOSOC accreditation. So would that help my demands in a sense that since if in case I am not able to attain the accreditation, but I collaborate or I am a partner with an organization that has the ECOSOC accreditation, would that somehow also make my demands reach the international platform in an indirect way?
Definitely. And I think it's really important to start thinking about creating synergies and networking. So we're not working in silos. It's not like each, we're not working in bubbles. We're all working in the same ecosystem. And it's really important to start bridging the gap between us and trying to work with sister organizations and build on each other's experiences and advantages. For instance, if we know an organization that has the ECOSOC status, we could actually contribute with them to the drafting of the statement, of the shadow reports, and we could attend some of, and as Mos was saying, some of these events, UN events, under the name of the other organization. So I think we really should strengthen this part in our MENA region, networking and building. Yeah, and this is something that has to be solidified. More work should be done, and such a space actually, it's really important. Such spaces are important to bring us all together, get to know each other, and really build on each other's lessons learned.
Okay, thank you so much. There's a question in the chat from Malak. كيف يدعم المجلس الاقتصادي والاجتماعي كيف يدعم المجلس الاقتصادي والاجتماعي مشاريعنا النسوية بعد الانضمام؟
Okay, so the thing is that أنا ما بعرف، كمان شفت حدا كاتب إنه لا عم تجاوب بالإنجليش مش بالعربي. أنا يعني على أساس التريننج بالإنجليش، بس مثل ما بدكم يعني ما في مشكلة.
Have interpretation for both. It doesn't really matter since we do have we do have only English speakers and only Arabic speakers in the audience, so we have interpretation for both.
Okay, great. So basically, it's not direct contribution in the sense of resources. The contribution is more like in the sense of amplifying our own agendas, trying to shape the UN's resolutions and policies and agendas with what actually is responsive to our own context. So it's really important because this is the region where usually most of the donors and most of the international bodies adopt a top-down approach. We're implementers. We're not creators of our own agendas. We don't develop our own agendas because we're always in a state of responding to emergencies. This is a region where we'll always have conflicts. We have emergencies. So we're always in this state of being in a response mechanism and not setting our own agendas. So really being present in spaces like the UN's committees and participating in the meetings and narrating our own stories and explicitly mentioning our own priorities and needs is a way where, this is a type of support that we could seek from attaining the ECOSOC status, and also minding that, as I said earlier, it definitely increases our credibility. Okay. I don't know, Fatima, if we have other questions or if I shall start.
Well, in the chat, there are no other questions. Do you want us to wait a minute for other people to ask if they are a bit shy?
Yes, of course. And I'm going to start sharing in the meantime the questions that are usually in the application.
Okay, okay. Okay, so it looks like there are no other questions from the audience, so we can start the ECOSOC application.
Okay, yeah. So basically, as we were saying, we need to have an existing structure. We need to have a headquarter. We need to have mission, vision, and mission, like the aim and the purpose of the organization. It has to be clearly articulated. And our processes, our strategic plans. How are we responding to, what's our plan to achieve those objectives? So the strategic directives, more or less, that the organization adopts. And the more we clearly articulate this, the more we are very concise, yet very clear about our strategic directives and our aim, it makes it easier for the committee to go over the application. And we have to actually present some of the recent projects and activities that we have been conducting. And that's why it says you need to be present for more than 2 years before you apply. You need to have you have to have established something before you apply. You have implemented the projects, you have responded to certain needs, and this will go in the application. There's also a question about, and if you see there, they also under each question, they try to explain what they're looking for from the question. Then there's a question about how is the organization intending to contribute to the work of the ECOSOC. So basically here the question is about your participation in UN's events, meetings, in participating in drafting the parallel reports, for instance, for the CSW parallel report, the CEDAW parallel report, the Beijing +25, for instance, recently several organizations participated in the drafting of the Beijing +25 parallel report. And it's really nice that now they're not called the shadow reports, they're called parallel reports to give more credibility to those reports. So it's not like, you know, the word shadow, like it's from behind. It's more now parallel. So they're giving an equal level with more or less the governmental reports. So here we could, the organization could state their plans in participating in the work of ECOSOC, and here also goes like how what's your work, how is your work pertinent to the SDGs? If you're working on women's issues, for instance, the goal 5 under the SDGs, economic empowerment, everything that goes under the UN's basically resolutions, policies, mandate. And they ask for also more details about projects and activities. So even future projects. So we really have to be aware of our own action plan before starting to draft the application. We need to have our annual reports, for instance, as an organization. We need to have our, I think we really need to have our strategic plan, or at least a draft of a strategic plan before we embark on this application. And then there are questions about previous participation in UN conferences, contributions to UN activities, and where do we categorize our organization? Is it a research organization? Is it an advocacy? Is it a grassroots organization? So we really have to be very specific. And then we have to provide the documents of registration, whether it's national, regional, or international. We have to describe the decision-making process of the organization. This is usually covered in the bylaws. So when you have an existing organization, a registered organization, you usually have those documents. The board members, the executive body of the organization, whether you have government officials on your board. Let's see what are other questions that are not. We also need to, for instance, to present our our financial processes, our financial statements. Where did we get money from during the past years? Who were our donors? Did we get money from the government? So whether you have like membership dues, the sources of income, it's really important to explain the organization sources of income. And then there's the list of requirements, document requirements, the certificate of registration, the bylaws, the financial statements. So it's not easy, but it's not that difficult if you have an existing organization with periodic reporting, if I may say. And if you have a clear vision, mission, and you have strategic directives. I'm gonna stop sharing, and I'm gonna really open the floor for reflections or questions.
So if anyone has any questions or anything that they would like to say, even if it's not a question or reflection, please don't be shy.
And I hope we didn't make you like feel a bit down because of the requirements and everything. I mean, it sounds more difficult than it is actually. I believe when you plan for it, it's attainable. Ghaida?
Hi, does the NGO have to be registered as an NGO? Because due to the shrinking space, and especially what Fatima said about being registered with government ministries, some NGOs resort to different registrations, different type of registrations other than NGO or non-profit. So is that strict requirement?
It cannot be a for-profit organization, yes.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yeah, because then it will be considered a consulting firm, let's say, and it's and not an NGO. You know, like I totally get your point, but as I said, the UN is not the most understandable of those context specificities.
Is there like an investigation process? Yeah. Is there like an investigating process? No. Is there an investigating process like for the UN to make sure of the finances of the NGO that's applying, where its income is from, and what exactly is its nature, since we know that a lot of applicants may not follow the motto of honesty is the best policy.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely do their due diligence. They review the application, and they go over, like, you know, the donors that you present, and the numbers have to match. And there's a specific question, as you said, like on governmental funding, which like may pose some questions, because as an NGO, it's not the best way to get funds from the government, because then you're co-opting. It may co-opt your own agenda. So this is a time-consuming review process, and in most cases, the NGO will receive several rounds of questions. And usually, because it's costly, they request that one person from the NGO goes to New York to actually reflect and respond to the questions if possible. Many organizations opt not to, particularly in the first phase, due to the high costs. But if there are several rounds of questions, then several organizations will send someone to be actually responding to those questions. So it's a long process, because as I said, like we have hundreds of thousands of NGOs from around the world, but 4,500 are accredited. So it's worth the hassle.
Definitely it is, especially when we don't want like state feminism to become part of the UN. So we definitely understand it.
Yeah.
So it looks like the audience have answers. So there aren't much questions. Is there a way for us to, like, the things that you shared this your screen with us, like the information in the PowerPoint presentation and the questions in the Word document, is there a way for us to see if they are available, if not from you, perhaps online, or if you would not, in case you know, you are...
No problem. I can share with you, Fatima, yes, and you can share with everyone, definitely.
Okay, yes, please do. We would be happy to do that. So
this is public public information.
Okay, great. So we have the emails of the applicants who applied for this workshop. So we would be happy to share what the content of this workshop, hopefully, and the recording of this workshop is also available. So if anyone would need any question, they would get back to us. And also the Asfari Institute website is also there in case someone would like to send us an email or contact us for further questions or inquiries. Zaina, thank you so much for this. This has been an amazing workshop, and I have benefited on a personal level, and I'm sure that everyone else has as well. Thank you so much for this training. This has been great. We have really, we're living with an abundance of information and with new ways to think of how our NGOs are going to work.
Thank you, Fatima. Thank you, everyone. It was amazing. It was an amazing space. So hope to meet again soon.
Thank you. Hopefully we will have a future workshop to discuss things that are related to this, since this can definitely be taken further.
Thank you. See you soon. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day or night.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.